Hi, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. In this video, I'm going to show you how I mix bass for our song Superglue. Let's have a quick listen to the track with the bass, with just the basic EQ on it. Now, the reason why I put this EQ on it initially is because I just want to iron out some of the frequencies that I don't want in the bass track. So let's have a listen to the bass with the mix so far.
Trying to pretend we're okay, we can be friends, but it's not that simple, dear. We got so much history here, and I don't believe that we are meant to be. There's beauty in the moment, but we're only getting older, you say. It's okay.
Okay, so the bass sounds great. It's been recorded really nicely, as Dan always does. But let's have a quick look at the EQs here. So, first of all, what I'm doing with this EQ is all of this sort of low to low mid EQ here is reducing some frequencies that I don't want in the mix. So let's solo the bass. And what I can do with this FabFilter Pro Q EQ is to solo the frequencies. So down here, the 40 Hertz. Now, if you're listening with headphones or good quality speakers, you'll probably hear that. Now, what that is the sub frequencies. Now, I'm going to be using those sub frequencies in the kick drum. So that's just why I've just dipped that a little bit, just so the kick drum on the sub can poke through a little bit more and give it a little bit more punch. The next frequency, have a listen to this. So that's 137 Hertz. Now, the reason why I'm dipping this is basically because I just didn't like the sound of it. So I've been soloing around the bass frequencies and I found that frequency was a little bit woolly, so I just dipped it a bit. So let's bypass that frequency just for the moment. So what that's doing, that's giving a little bit extra clarity, and also the bass drum is going to be poking through at that point as well. Right, let's have a listen to 200. Now around 200 to 300 Hertz, just try dipping that on the bass a little bit, as it's going to give the bass a little bit more clarity. And there it is again. So around 700 Hertz for me is where the bass tends to poke through the mix a little bit. So I normally boost a small amount around that frequency. And as you can see, it's quite a wide band. And up here is where you're going to get the string noise and the finger attack. The next plugin I'm going to use is Waves Bass Rider, and you can think of this plugin as either a very fast, transparent compressor or a volume automation plugin. So what we're going to do is to bring down the target so the majority of notes are hitting around the 0 dB setting. Now, one of the things about bass is certain notes get lost on the bass and certain notes really poke out. So that's why Bass Rider is such a great plugin, as it makes all of the notes of the bass more even. Okay, the next plugin that I'm going to bring in is a compressor, and I'm going to use one of my favourite compressors, which is the CLA2A, and we're going to switch it onto the limiting mode. Right, the first thing we're going to do is to bring up the peak reduction. And as you can see there, we're hitting between sort of 3 to 5 dB of gain reduction. Right, now an important thing to check on this is to make sure you're not over boosting the output. So as you can see, it's louder with the plugin engaged. So let's bring it back a bit more. And it's got a little bit of a boost, but I'm quite happy with that. So let's hear how that sounds in the track so far.
It's not me, it's your heart that is a problem. Why?
Okay, the next plugin that I'm going to bring in is an EQ. So I'm going to bring in the UAD Helios 69 Legacy EQ. Now, they have brought out a newer version of this plugin, but the reason I like this version of the plugin so much is this function here. So let's play the bass, let's solo it again. And what I'm going to do is just to engage 60 Hertz. Let's put it in bypass and bring in. So even though we're not actually adding any gain to that side of the EQ, just by engaging the 60 Hertz in the EQ, it gives it a 60 Hertz bump. But what that does is to bring out a really nice frequency for the bottom end of the bass. So the next thing I'm going to do is to give the bass some more clarity. So as I said before, that's around about 700 Hertz. So let's bring it down to 700 and let's give it a boost. And let's bypass that and bring it in. And let's hear that in the mix now. So I'm really happy with the EQ of the bass now, but what I'd like to do is to give the bass a bit more presence in the mix. And the way that I do that is to add some distortion to the bass. And what I'm going to do is to bring in a plugin that comes with PreSonus Studio One, which is called Bit Crusher. Now let's drag that in. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is to take off any bit crushing function. So let's bring that back up to 24-bit. Now what I'm going to do is to add some overdrive to the bass, and I'm only just going to touch it. So let's just give it just over a dB.
It's not you, it's my heart that is a problem. Why? How do we let this time slip?
Right, so now the bass is really popping out the mix, but it's a bit too loud. So let's balance out the input and the output gain.
And now we're super good to move on.
And let's bring back the mix a bit as well.
Conversation, it's a bonus. Can I just suggest we all pack it up, pack it up?
Okay, let's bypass it.
And now I'm all alone, so I'll divide.
And now let's bring it in.
We're so lost. If I were to fall down with you, help me up, help me up.
So I hope you'll agree that the bass has a tight modern sound, but it's still adding weight to the bottom end of the mix. So I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. I hope you guys got something out of that, and I'll see you next time.